Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica with Memory Box Candle Co. and I make videos all about making and selling candles. And today's video is another make candles with me / listen to me chit chat in the background about random stuff that's on my mind. And I hope you are also doing something productive, whether that's making your own handmade products or cleaning the kitchen or even just driving and laying down watching me make stuff. So whatever it is, I hope you're having a great day. Today's video topic is primarily based on markets and kind of my view of being in local markets and how I, go about applying and getting into it, and my experience with the daytime markets versus the nighttime markets, and just kind of that whole thing, just because I'm super into the whole, local markets right now and kind of trying to expand locally, because I feel like that was something that I say this all the time, but I absolutely should have been more focused on this from the very beginning. I think that that is one of the best ways that you can get out there in the beginning of starting your business. And I just, was a little late to the party, but better late than never. So I'm really enjoying getting back into it. Now, I would say about about 4 to 6 weeks ago, I really got back into online and trying to apply to local events, because the beginning of this year was very cold, and after being at the Christmas event that we were at back in December, it was so cold. It was so cold, and I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with it being absolutely freezing at night. And I will say that the cold definitely deters people from wanting to show up to the event. So I was just, waiting a little bit more towards the springtime to start actually applying and trying to get into these events. And I had applied to 3 different events, and it was about a week later. I didn't hear anything from any of the managers of these events. And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of was getting to me. I'm like, why am I not being accepted? Did I do something wrong? Did they not like it when I was at their other event? How you start spiraling in your head on why somebody doesn't like you or why somebody's not picking you, because they do say that if you don't hear anything within 2 weeks of applying, it means that they didn't see you as a right fit at that time for that specific event. And I was just thinking like, okay, so they're just not picking me. And I had applied to 3 different events, hadn't heard back from any of them. So I was starting to get a little upset. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't, being super down on myself, but it was bugging me a little bit. And then I would say probably about the next day of me being upset, I got accepted into one of them. And then a couple days later, I got accepted into another. And then I had applied to a couple more and got accepted into those. So needless to say, Erica was upset for no reason. So I think that, and that's something that, as much as you can preach to other businesses, and with me to you guys watching me, as much as I can preach, just be patient. Don't be upset if you don't get sales right away. Don't be upset if you don't get into the events. Don't be upset. It's so natural for us to be upset or to react to it in whatever way we're going to react to it. And so I just had basically, learned, just keep going, keep applying. I didn't just want to wait around for those events. I just started applying to a bunch of other ones. And what do you know? I got accepted into a total of 4. So 2 for the month of April and then 2 for the month of May. And I know I always get questions on how do you go about finding these events. And this was such a struggle for me in the beginning, because I was the same way that you're thinking, like, I don't even know where to look. You can look on Facebook at the events page on Facebook, and you can actually search locally and see what's going on in your area. I think there's also something called Eventbrite or something like that. I think it's a website, and it shows you different events in your area. And then once I really found the media company, the people who work to get the permits and then actually work to advertise the events and get people to come to the events. Once I found out who those companies were in my area, I followed them on Instagram, and then I was able to actually go on there and see when they're having these events, and they have the applications on there. And then I would just go on and apply to them, obviously. But once you find these companies that host these events, just follow them, and then you'll be able to see when future events are going to be happening. And I highly recommend to go to the event prior to applying and prior to being a vendor, so you can get familiar with the area. That's what Chris and I did with the 2 events that we are going to be going to this year. We went to them last year to see the location and see how it was before actually becoming a vendor, because you never know how it's going to be. You don't know how the setup is going to be, how the drop off, the loading, unloading, is it going to be a pain in the butt? Are you going to have to park super far? There's just a lot of stuff that goes into it being a vendor versus just being a guest somewhere. So it's completely different. But it does take a little bit of research. So Google is going to be your friend, Facebook, Instagram, hashtag your city on Instagram, and try to find people that are tagging themselves at different events and see if there's something that goes on. Like for instance, around where I am, Fridays are very popular. So there's lots of events that we do on Fridays, as well as Saturdays, of course, but we can't do Saturdays because Chris works. And then there are also Sundays as well. But we've only ever really done Fridays except for this past Sunday. So this past Sunday was actually our very first daytime event that we've ever done. Now, when I applied here, it was mainly just because I knew that it wasn't going to be that big of an event because my mom and I had visited this event back in September, and it was a smaller event, less vendors there, not as much foot traffic. And so I just kind of had a feeling that it wasn't going to be that, that busy, but I wanted to apply anyways because I never want to assume. I don't want to assume that something is going to be not that great. I really want to experience it for myself, and that's what I told Chris. I'm like, we got to experience a daytime event because we've only ever done nighttime events. And I believe on Sunday it got up to the mid 80s. And the way that our booth was set up was we were kind of running away from the sun because the sun was starting to set in front of us. So the sun was starting to point down into our booth. And that's the very first time that we've ever actually had to deal with our candles starting to melt. And it wasn't to the point, and this is what I was telling Chris, I'm like, I just don't want it to be to the point where when when somebody like turns the candle, I don't want it to be like wax pouring out of the candle. Essentially, it was just kind of a little bit of that like, I don't want to say sweating, but I guess sweating on the top of the candle, like the little bead formation, like it's all shiny and stuff like that. That's pretty much what candles arrived to the customer looking like in the summertime though. So I wasn't really worried about it. I was more intrigued on looking at which scents were sweating more than others. I found that very fascinating. So I kept looking at the different scents and I'm like, that's so weird that this scent is like super, like this scent is melting faster or whatever. But anyways, we just kept moving the candles back. So we were pulling the table back into our booth because typically our booth setup is where people don't walk into our booth. It's just the table on the outside right there. But we were having it to where, people were walking a couple feet into the booth just to get the candles out of the direct sunlight. Unfortunately, I don't have any tips or tricks or anything for when the sun is directly hitting the candles. I hope that I never have to experience that happening. I don't know if there's any kind of shady overhang thing that could protect the candles. I have no idea. But man, it was like a totally different experience being at a vendor in the heat during the daytime as a candle business. I was very much watching how people were, I guess, where they were going and where they were choosing to go. And so many people were going to the booth right next to us, completely avoiding us, and then going to the booth on the other side. And again, not gonna lie, I was a little like, why are people avoiding us? I'm starting to overthink all these things and starting to think like, gosh, why are people not wanting to come over here? And then I thought to myself, I'm like, well, Erica, it's candles, and candles in hot, like people aren't thinking like, oh, I want to get a candle when it's really hot outside. So there's that. But also the time of the year with it being more of like the warmer weather. Although I always thought that the springtime would be the best time to be at markets. I don't know. I feel like this is all, which it is, it's all super new to me. I've only ever done pop-up events in the fall and the winter time. So this is the first time that I've ever been doing it in the spring and almost summertime. So this is, again, just my experience of trying it out. And I'm very curious to see if on Friday, because we have a nighttime event this Friday, if it's going to be any different, if it's going to have more foot traffic, if more people are going to be there, if more people are going to be interested in candles because it's not going to be really hot outside and they'll be thinking, oh, it gets colder, so I want candles. I don't know. But I just found it fascinating to look around at people, and I would, ask people like, oh, do you want to come smell the candles? And I had so many people be like, no, thanks, and like walk away. And I'm like, my soul, but you just hurt my soul. You just hurt my soul. And I will say though, and so many people have told me this too, like, you're going to be told no. It's bound to happen. And I used to work in sales, so I have no problem with being told no. But it is a little bit different when they're saying no to like your products that you make. But I know they're not saying no to that. They're just saying, like, I get it. I've been a person walking around at an event and people have asked me questions and I say, no, thank you, and walk away, keep walking. So I just have to think about it from their perspective. They're just not interested, and that's totally fine. Yeah, that was our experience with the daytime event. I will say though that we did better, like financially wise, than I thought we were going to. We definitely still made a profit. We definitely sold things. We definitely sold candles. But it was more than I thought it was going to be. It was the least amount that we've made at any of the events that we've done, but it definitely surprised me that we made the amount that we did. So that was really interesting. So we have our event on Friday night that we're going to be doing, and I went out today, and I really wanted to change my booth setup because of the amount of time that I was just standing up, at my booth, just staring out at, watching everybody. I had my sunglasses on because it was just so bright outside. So I kind of felt a little bit better about, just kind of watching instead of just staring at people. You know what I mean? Instead of just staring at people, like making it look like I'm not looking at, anyways, you know what I mean? So I was just kind of looking around, and I was just noticing everybody else's booths. And I'm like, man, like their booth looks so nice. Like they have so much stuff. It looks like they have so much stuff to sell. And then I'm like looking at mine, and I'm just like, gosh, I need to redo or add more to it, because at nighttime we have our little lights, and it looks so much better. Our booth setup looks so much better at night than it does in the daytime. But I've known for a while that I've wanted to add more height to my booth. I just feel like everything's too flat. I do have a little bit of height, but it's just not enough for me. And I really have been wanting to change things up. So I went to Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Target. I think those were the 3 places I went to today. And I grabbed a couple things. One thing that I grabbed, I have to return because I wasn't reading what it was, so it ended up not being what I thought it was going to be. So I gotta go return that. But I really just wanted to think about how to set up the booth differently, because I think that that is a huge thing that draws people to your booth. And I know that there is a sweet spot between looking too cluttered and showing that you have a lot of products to sell that entices people to come over. So I'm trying to add more products on my table and show, we got products, we have products, come and buy them, but also not have it be overly cluttered. And I'm really trying to add a little bit more decoration to it, make it look a little cuter and nicer. And I just feel like it's been needing an upgrade, because the booth setup that we've been doing, I've just been keeping the same on the events that we did last year. And I don't always want to just keep it the same. I think that experimenting with different setups is very helpful, and it's how we're going to learn what's going to, draw more people in and what's going to catch people's attention more. Because just like with online advertising and the way that you create your labels and the way that you set up your website, it's all going to be trial and error. Oh, and Wick testing too. We all know that's trial and error. And you'll never know what's going to work unless you keep trying to, switch some things up here and there. So I am looking forward to this Friday night to, have a little bit of a different setup. I still am trying to figure out how exactly I want to do it. I think I'm going to do a mock setup in my living room. So I'm going to set it up how we do it at the market, and I'm going to just kind of, try to play around with it, because there's nothing worse than getting to the market and then trying to, do it there. I'd rather have it set up and know how I'm going to do it ahead of time than try to rush and do it later on. So that is what I basically have been primarily focusing on with these pop-up events. And I apologize that I haven't put YouTube on the back burner, but I've definitely been more lenient. I've been more, I've told myself, don't worry about it. If it's a matter of working on something for my business that I have to get done, or filming a YouTube video, I'm starting more and more to just choose my business over YouTube, because as much as I love YouTube, I really have been taking a step back from everything, from social media and how I'm going about my business. And I'm really trying to think about planning ahead of time and making it to where I don't always have to rely on social media. And Tiana had actually made a video recently, and I loved what she was saying in it. But she was saying something about how trying to make money and grow your business without using social media. Like, try different ways, because you never know, like, what if, not that it will, but you know what I mean? Like, if social media completely disappears and we need to not use it, or even not have to rely on it and feel like obligated to constantly post, because I've definitely felt like that in the past, and I've given myself way more leniency with all that, and way more just like, instead of focusing on what I want to post on Instagram or what I want to post on TikTok, or just focusing on that aspect of it, I'm like, let me focus on growing my email list and, focusing on getting wholesale orders, and just focusing on actually expanding my business instead of just posting content. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that some of you can relate to what I'm saying with that, because sometimes I feel like a lot of my focus is on the social media presence of it, instead of actually kind of the bones and working on the structure of the business. So that's been my focus on lately, and that includes doing local pop-up events, trying to grow my email list, wholesale supplier, trying to get more wholesale, which I know I say all the time, I swear. But I feel like, with what I do and having my YouTube channel and having my Etsy digital download shop and having my candle business and, you know, doing all these different avenues, I always feel like I'm just being pulled in so many different directions. So I'm really trying to just think of what is the priority. Like when all is said and done, what is the priority? And my candle business is my everything. Like it is everything to me. So I always have to prioritize that. And sometimes in the past I haven't. And that's what makes me feel like I haven't grown as much as I feel like I quote unquote should have at this point. Being, you know, a little bit over 2 years in, I feel like I should be, you know, further along, but that is also subjective. And it's also just me being really hard on myself as well. So I don't know, just kind of wanted to throw that in there at the end. I am so excited for this weekend, and I am hopefully, you know, the more I get the hang of all these pop-up events and what I learn and everything, I love making more videos on vendor events because I feel like it's so exciting, and it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done for my business, because seeing and meeting customers and talking to them and telling them about the candles and educating them on certain things, it is just unbeatable. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite things. But with that, I think I am going to end today's video right here. I appreciate all of you for watching today's video. If you liked it, make sure to leave it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at Erica Marie Morris, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.